Hey, so today marks, I think, 4 months of exercising, and um, it's the middle of April. I haven't actually lost any weight, but um, the two people in my life say that I am getting more toned and all that, but I don't know. The only thing I do notice is I cannot keep my jeans on. They are sliding down. I mean, I like baggy jeans, but they don't stay on for nothing. Like, they are basically like, where's the waist or whatever. I don't know. I might have to start wearing belts while I'm doing this. It should be funny, I guess. Um, I um just recorded like day before yesterday, something like that. So hasn't been that long this time. But I've been thinking a lot about the the being scared of it getting worse, and I've been thinking, there's these things you look forward to about transitioning that, oh, maybe it could help, and there's these things that you dread that you hope don't happen to you, and I don't know, I've met people, I've seen people who are like, I need to be on T, I have to get on testosterone, and they're so gung-ho about it that they will not listen to anybody who's trying to warn them, or especially if they don't actually have dysphoria, if they have dysmorphia or something like that. It's terrible because they're so sure that testosterone is like this thing that's going to make their life better, and testosterone can do some not good things to you. um I have I have I have seen some things, and I'm scared. My mother's side doesn't have any baldness, but my father's side does. A bunch of my uncles are bald. My father is balding. I remember the horror of the acne that my brothers and I had. Big, red, nasty acne. Like, who wants that? Who would willingly choose in their 30s to go back to having that kind of acne? Like, just terrible and everywhere. I mean, to this day, I still have a little bit of acne issues because it runs in my family. Um, like, what if all of the bad things that can come from tea come? And I don't, I don't have a guarantee that the good things will come. Testosterone reacts differently to everyone's bodies in different ways, and a bunch of it's based on your genetics, and it's not like this magic pill you take and everything's fixed. You don't know what's going to happen when you take testosterone, except that here's the big list of things that can happen, and a bunch of those things are like, oh my god, I have wanted an Adam's apple since I was like 13. An Adam's apple, just that. If I could somehow develop an Adam's apple, I would just be like, it was all worth it. Even if my voice didn't lower somehow, even if I still got periods somehow, even if, like, okay, maybe not the periods thing. I'm not gonna lie. I I I first asked if I could get a hysterectomy when I was 20, and they pretty much laughed it off and said I couldn't possibly know whether or not I wanted to birth children, even though I was extremely certain, and I have never changed my mind about it. They were like, yeah, right, you're 20, come back when you're 45, you know. But I wanted one so bad. I still want one so bad. It is my number one surgery, which might seem strange to people, but I have like the opposite order, which has always bothered me of a lot of people. Um, from my dysphoria, which I need to stop thinking about. Um, um, Body dysmorphia is not what I have. Flat out, they're very different. Dysphoria and dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia is um terrible, but it's not the same kind of terrible as what I have. And then gender expression. Honestly, just in the cases that I've seen in my personal experience, I don't know the statistics on this, but in what I've seen in my life, the majority of detransitioners had body dysmorphic disorder that mistranslated as gender dysphoria. And they do have overlapping symptoms sometimes, and it can be very hard unless you are a really good gender therapist sometimes to tell when someone is so sure and you're trying to figure out, and no one wants to have body dysmorphia. I looked it up yesterday. 3 million people a year in the United States get diagnosed with body dysmorphic disorder, and there is treatment for it and specialized CBT for it, and good recommendations and all that kind of stuff, and people do get help. But I was looking it up yesterday, and for other reasons. It wasn't about me. It's about someone else I know um, who does have dysmorphia, and um, it's interesting because people go on and on about how gender dysphoria, if it's not treated, the reason it has a recommended treatment is because it ends in suicide. That's the unfortunate result of dysphoria. That's also the unfortunate result of untreated dysmorphia, according to the Mayo Clinic, um, which sucks. It's not something that you can just learn to live with very much, like, at all. It's pretty much got an end result, and if you don't get treatment, please get treatment. Gender expression isn't quite the same. It does not have a expected does not have an expected result in suicide, although that can happen. Gender expression, thankfully, there are ways to work around it if you don't get treatment. For instance, you can have different like seasons of your life where you wear like a particular thing, like a backwards ball cap for a while, and then you move on to boots, and then and you have this thing that you can use to try to express yourself, to try to alleviate, until you get old enough that you can start determining your own life some, and you can start expressing yourself the way that you need to, and the way that you feel more, and everything, comfortable expressing yourself, and you're not disgusted or feel like you're in someone else's body or anything like that when you look in the mirror, as much as you just don't feel comfortable, you don't feel right. You look at it and you're just like, oh my god, I just want to wear a baggy t-shirt. Why won't my mom let me wear that? It's like this constant frustration, almost, from what I understand talking to people who have it. I know I've always wanted to express masculinity, and it's been a non-stop frustration in my life, but it also is so much deeper than that. It's a rejection 100% of the time. It's a non-acceptance of me. It's not just a non-acceptance of what I look like. It is a non-acceptance of me. And no one has ever accepted me until recently in my life. Ever. At all. Not even a little bit. Not even one person. Period. I see all these, like, documentaries and videos and short films and shit about all these young people who are finding their gender or finding themselves or whatever it is. And I just split down the middle. Split so hard between relief that someone else isn't going to have to, hopefully in the future, wait as long, that they're not going to have to be as discriminated against, that there's going to be solutions for them, that they're going to find out that there's possibilities and treatments sooner, and then just outright jealousy. When I was a teenager, I didn't know that trans men existed. I only, for some reason, knew about transvestites at the time, was what they were called, trans women. And I'm a little older than modern day language, you know, like transsexual, for instance, back in the day was not the same as it is now, and it was not the same when I was young as it was 10, 20 years before I was young as well. It's sort of morphed over time or whatever. Like, there were different terms for things. But when I was a teenager, I grew up in an extremely religious way, and, you know, we would pray for the misguided men putting on women's wigs and shit. Like, that was a requirement. I didn't have a choice in the matter. That was the expectation. I wasn't allowed to know any of them or be around any of them or anything at all. And I didn't know about trans men at all. And I don't blame any trans guy for going stealth at all. Not even a little. Because I pretty much grew up around some of the most bigoted people. And I know how cruel and quote-unquote Christ-like a lot of Christians are while they pray for your soul. And they do it for their own power tripping, and they don't do it because they give a shit about you or your soul. I'm very aware. I've also met, you know, Christian folk who were genuinely nice and sweet and not afraid of socialism. And, you know, just accept people. So not all Christians are the same. And they kind of get lumped together into... Not everyone is Westboro Baptist, but I grew up around people who were basically Westboro Baptists. So, and unfortunately, even the ones who consider themselves not Westboro Baptist, and to be more mild, just, they're not all the way over to the accept everyone side. Those ones, honestly, they're not as nice as they think they are. Anywho, I don't know how I got on this. Anyway, the point is expressing yourself is 100% okay as long as it is not illegal, as long as it is not damaging. And they'll argue that it is damaging, but it's not. If you want to wear some fucking guy jeans, go wear some fucking guy jeans. It is not gonna hurt you or anyone else for you to dress like a boy if you're comfortable being a girl. And for body dysmorphia and body dysphoria, not body dysphoria, gender dysphoria, get help. because there is an end result to those disorders that is not good. The world needs more good people, and somehow with body dysmorphia and gender dysphoria both, you end up doing so much fucking soul searching. You try to figure yourself out so much that I would honestly say, in my personal experience, again, I don't know the statistics on it, but in my personal experience, 98% of people I have encountered with those disorders are like fucking good people. So like big-hearted and generous toward other human beings. Like, you go through enough of that kind of turmoil and you don't want anyone else to suffer, and you make the world a better place, even if you think you're worth nothing and whatever. You are such a better person than some of the assholes that exist in the world. The world needs more of you. Maybe you're not perfect. Maybe you're not the best at environmental protection. Maybe you're not the greatest at being, like there for kids or volunteering or whatever it is, but you naturally treat people in a way that the world needs more of. So please get treatment. And sometimes that's really difficult. There is no possible way under the sun, no matter how suicidal I was when I was a teenager. I mean, none, that I could have gotten treatment when I was a teen in the situation that I was in. None. And I understand that happens. You are buried under so much abuse and rigidity, strictness. You're just trying to survive. It doesn't even matter if it's you surviving, as long as something survives and you can hopefully find you later. Like, there is not a between. Sometimes things are that extreme, and I get that. Survive. Survive, because the world needs more people like you. People who've seen it bad and don't automatically think, oh, well, everyone else needs to go through it bad too, because that's what makes you a good person. It doesn't. If you think that going through it bad is what made you a good person, you're not a good person. Flat out. I will say, gender dysphoria, even though it is considered a medical disorder and not a mental one, gender dysmorphia doesn't make you crazy. It's a perfectionism disorder. And somewhere, on that same spectrum as obsessive compulsive disorder, it's not that you're crazy. It's that your brain processes very specific patterns, and when things don't match up to those specific patterns, your brain can't process it. It freaks out. It wigs out. Not because it's crazy, but because it's designed to find these patterns, and that makes you in some ways slightly a genius. And of course, genius comes with it the stress of seeing things that way. But the goal is never perfection. The goal is progress. If you ever get to perfection, then that's just stagnation. And stagnation isn't perfect. So then there's no such thing as actually getting to perfection. And please get help. Gender dysphoria and body dysmorphia both have recommended treatments, and if you are struggling with the difference between the two, please talk to someone with a degree about it. Because if you transition, it's only going to help for a couple of months, and then you're going to need the next thing, and then the next thing. It's just like people with body dysmorphia should not get surgeries, because it only works for a little bit, and then you need the next thing, and then you need the next thing, because what you really need is help. It's not your body that needs to change. It's how you perceive your body. I don't know why I've been talking so much about body dysmorphia, when that's not my issue. I guess to avoid my issue, because I do that a lot. I am scared of testosterone more than I am scared of surgery, which is very strange, because I've never met another trans person who was like that. The surgeries, I can 100% see how they would help me. I can 100% feel like they would help me. I understand the pain and the struggle that would come along with them, and I understand the financial burden, the emotional burden, the burden I'm putting on other people, how fucking long I have to be in recovery, complications and risks of complications, and yet surgery sounds more like a sure thing to me than testosterone. Testosterone does a whole lot of things in a whole lot of wide ranges. I don't know if I should transition. I definitely should not right now while I'm not ready for it, but I don't know if I should at all. I don't know. I mean, I'm old enough. Is it even worth it? And yet at the same time, I can't just suicide. I have people who have need of me, who I take care of. My spouse requires 24/7 care. I am that caretaker. I bathe her, I feed her, I give her meds. I am the one who does it all. So, I literally have another human being dependent upon my existing, and can't take that risk. And yet I'm scared to take the risk of transitioning, because what if there's something? I don't know. I've never met anyone who transitioned without an inkling of fear at any point. So, again, I'm not atypical. I realize that. I think having experience with the LGBT community might be hampering my actual ability to do this. You look at a 16-year-old coming into it, and their eyes are so big, and they are so gung-ho. Oh my gosh, they have so much passion about their own transition. It's infectious, and I don't know, I wish I could have a little more of that. But part of the reason they're like that is they're so young. The energy. I would like some of that back, but oh well. But that doesn't come back with age. But it's also ignorance, a little bit. Ignorance to some of the realities of it, and also the comfort of knowing that they're doing it as young as they're doing it. They could be fully transitioned by the time they get out of college. Like, can you imagine? I suppose you could if you're that age. I can't. All I can see is like the realities. I can't imagine actually being to a point where I'm happy and content and bad things come and go and it's not a big deal because I'm actually me. I'm actually comfortable with myself. Can't even imagine that. But also, I want to take my mom's advice and not wait till I'm her age. Although I was already doing that, but you know, she reaffirmed. My mom, she tries. Which is more than I can say for my birth mother. But, I don't know. I'm trying to figure things out. I'm trying to be less scared of risk and more excited about possible good things. And I've always found that very difficult. I hate when I get excited because when things don't work out, it is an automatic devastating letdown. So I just don't get excited about anything for the most part. Maybe that's all this is. I don't know.